So as I looked upon your faces when I was doing the invocation, I see a lot of faces going, what's he talking about? Why is he saying the Lord's Prayer? What is this all about? So the theme of today's sermon is forgiveness. And being today, does anybody know what today is? Palm Sunday. It's the culmination of the very busy Christian week. We just sang in the garden, which occurs historically on Thursday, where Jesus is in the garden and he gets arrested. So I come to you today because I have this Christian Catholic background. Not that I agree with it, because as I've grown in my own life and in my journey, I've been able to say, you know what, a lot of this doesn't make sense, but yet some of it does. Some of you may have been a student of the Bible. And in fact, recently you know that there's been this movement to take books out of schools based on people's personal beliefs. Well, you know, some of the stories that are in the Bible would say, you know what, the Bible needs to be taken out too. But there's a lot of good as well as a lot of bad in the Bible. So when we talk about forgiveness, that's the whole theme of that movement after the Jewish religion. Because remember now, Jesus is not Christian. There was no such thing as Christian. What was he? He was Jewish. He had a different thought and a different philosophy about what it was to be a Jewish man or a Jewish person. That's what he wanted to change. So there are some really great, interesting stories in the Bible when we talk about forgiveness. I take a different approach in a lot of the stories. So let me give you an example. There's a story in the Bible about this father who has 3 sons. And the father says to his 3 sons, I need to go away for a while. I don't remember exactly why he needed to go away, but he wanted to entrust his money with his 3 sons. So the first son, he gives him 10 talents. And he trusts him with 10 talents. The second son, he gives him 7 talents. And the third son, he gives him 2 talents. Now a talent, I'm going to guess, was probably like dollars or something in the country that they lived in. So the father returns, and he says to his sons, what have you done with the money that I gave you? And the first son says, well, Father, I took your 10 talents and I did something with it. I invested it and I doubled it. So here's 20 talents back. He says to the second son, what did you do with the 7 talents I gave you? And he says, well, Father, I took the 7 talents, I invested it, and I doubled it, and here's 14 talents back. And he said to the third son, what did you do with the 2 talents that I gave you? He said, Father, I buried the 2 talents so that I wouldn't lose it or have the temptation to use it for anything, so here are the 2 talents back. He praised the first son, and he praised the second son, and he admonished the third son. So in my history of doing Bible studies, most people, or most theologians would say that he praised the first 2 sons for taking a risk with their father's money. Whereas I looked at it a different way and I said, they may have taken a risk, but suppose that risk didn't pan out. I kind of praised the third son and said, you protected what I gave, what was given to me. A different approach. So those are the kind of things when you read things in the Bible, your impression of it might be different than mine. Your impression of it might be different than mine, but that's okay. The point is we get some kind of lesson out of it. When we talk about forgiveness, that's a hard thing, isn't it? People do things to us that hurt us, whether physically, emotionally, psychologically, against our spirit. And we kind of recoil from that, don't we? You know, there's that old saying, hurt me once, shame on you. Hurt me twice, shame on me. Now that's a method of protecting ourselves. But know this, forgiveness and love cannot, I should say, hatred and love cannot coexist. If you're going to hate, you're going to hate everything. If you're going to love, like you should be doing, you love everything. If a person hurts you, you need to learn to say, I forgive you for that. But does that mean that you need to go back to get hurt again? Most likely not. Sometimes it's best just to leave things as they are. Forgiveness is tough. Not only do we have to forgive someone who's hurt us, but you know what? Sometimes we need to forgive ourselves too. There's things we've done in our lives, I know I've done in mine, that till today I have dreams about. And I say, John, how stupid of you. Why did you do what you did? And you carry that hurt through your life. And sometimes you have to just sit back and say, you know what? It happened. Let it go. Forgive yourself for it. In Matthew 18, verses 21 through 22, later Peter approached Jesus and said, how many times do I have to forgive my fellow believer who keeps offending me? 7 times? And Jesus answered, not 7 times, Peter, but 70 times 7. So let me give you another little story. There's a Spanish story of a father and a son who had become estranged. You know, that happens in life, right? I mean, most of us probably have had good relationships with our parents, but some of us have not. And we carry that hurt. The son ran away, and the father set off to find him. He searched for months to no avail. Finally, in a last desperate effort to find him, the father put an ad in a Madrid newspaper. The ad read, Dear Paco, meet me in front of this newspaper office at noon on Saturday. All is forgiven. I love you, your father. On Saturday, 800 Pacos showed up, looking for forgiveness and love from their fathers. And you know, there's probably countless people living with unforgiveness in their heart, and many more that die holding on to unforgiveness, and this is a tragedy. General Oglethorpe once said to John Wesley, I never forgive and I never forget, to which Wesley replied, then, sir, I hope you never sin. And you know, as human beings, having human nature, we're living in a broken world and redeemed by Christ and the blood of Christ. So we easily tend to judge and hold grudges, and we are not that quick to forgive when we are wronged. We like putting people in cages and holding on to the key. That's revenge. But we are slow to repent of our sin before God. What did Jesus do when he hung on the cross at Calvary? In Luke 23:34, as Jesus was nailed to the cross with sin, he forgave. Forgiveness always involves paying a price. You can never forgive someone to whom you feel superior to. Think about that for a minute. Forgiveness involves humility. And it takes humility to forgive someone. To forgive someone who asks for forgiveness. And to ask for forgiveness from another person. Our modern day culture is one of utter self-exertion. Forgiveness is self-renunciation. I tried to find something, some sort of song or some sort of poem that exemplified forgiveness. And a lot of it has to do, or say 99% of what's out there has to do with asking forgiveness from your spouse or your girlfriend or your boyfriend or whatever. Well, that's all fine, but you know, we also live in a world of people other than our spouses or the people that we live with. So I did find this one poem, and I want to read this to you because it really exemplifies the meaning of forgiveness. It's written by Laurie McBride. When resentment and offense invade the very crevices of your heart, it burns fierce like sulfur as it forces love to depart, causing only the mention of a name to consume you with hate as its poison wreaks havoc on the next generation's fate. This grudge festers on, keeping you imprisoned in pain, causing every life force around you to bear the effects of your strain. For hate and love cannot reside in one heart, just as hate takes a family and tears it apart. Without forgiveness, the heart dies as it mourns the loss of love, never understanding its very being is created in the heavens above. So then how can we be reconciled to God who is love, the creator of life, if the heart still remains unforgiving and full of strife? I believe mankind's greatest lesson when we are sent here to learn is how to love God and our neighbor before we return. So what's more valuable to you? Is it love or is it pride? Because a heart without love has already died. And understand that if pride is what you choose, there are many generations to follow who have everything to lose. Ask love to return again and invade every crevice of your heart. Seek the courage to make amends. Let love give you a new start. And I leave you all with blessings of spirit. And whatever you happen to celebrate this week, whether it's Easter coming up or however that is, Passover, which is just ending actually, I leave you all with blessings of God and Spirit. Thank you.